When a dismissive avoidant and you both stop contacting each other, this is what happens next. It starts with silence, the kind that isn't loud or dramatic, just empty. Two people, both wounded in their own way, both protecting themselves through different styles of pain, finally stop reaching out. The calls end. The texts fade. The push and pull cycle, the endless dance of connection and retreat, finally collapses into nothingness. At first, you think this silence is the end, but for both you and the dismissive avoidant, it's not the end. It's the beginning of something deeper, uncomfortable, and revealing. Because when two people stop chasing, what's left isn't peace, it's truth. When a dismissive avoidant goes silent, it's rarely about hatred. It's usually about control, avoiding vulnerability, rejection, and old wounds. But when you stop contacting them too, something in their armor begins to crack. At first, they feel relieved. Finally, they think, no more pressure. But as the days pass, that relief turns into curiosity. The silence they once used as protection starts echoing back at them. They wonder, why isn't this person chasing me anymore? For avoidance, connection has always been a battlefield. They crave intimacy but fear it. They want love but associate it with being controlled or hurt. When you used to reach out, it reinforced their sense of security. They knew you'd always come back. But when you stop too, the power dynamic shifts. Suddenly, they're the ones wondering, and that confusion begins their inner conflict. Meanwhile, you go through your own emotions. At first, there's the ache of missing them. You catch yourself checking your phone, wondering if they'll message. But then, after the initial pain fades, a strange calm appears. You realize how much energy you poured into something that wasn't mutual. The silence that once felt like punishment now feels like protection. You begin to reclaim yourself piece by piece. The avoidant senses this shift even without words. That emotional cord they once relied on suddenly weakens, and that triggers something deep, fear. The fear of being forgotten. Avoidants like to believe they don't need anyone. But when the person who once cared goes quiet, they feel the very abandonment they tried to prevent. At this stage, they might not reach out directly. Instead, they test the waters, viewing your stories, liking old posts, sending random memes. It's their way of asking, are you still there? But here's the paradox. If you respond too quickly, they retreat. If you stay detached, they spiral in confusion. This is the emotional tug-of-war that begins once you both stop contacting each other. Time becomes the great revealer. After weeks or months of silence, both of you start to see more clearly. You realize how much you were driven by the need to prove your worth. They begin to feel the weight of their defenses. The quiet forces them to face the feelings they've avoided. Loneliness, regret, and the truth that love requires vulnerability. For some avoidants, this silence becomes unbearable. They reminisce about your warmth and emotional safety, but pride keeps them frozen. Late at night, when everything is still, their mind drifts to you. They replay moments, your laugh, your kindness, and feel a strange ache they can't name. Meanwhile, you start growing. You stop obsessing over their next move. You focus on your healing, your boundaries, your peace. You realize you don't need closure from them, because silence is closure. It shows you what they can give and what they can't. And in that realization, something powerful happens. You stop craving their attention and start valuing your own energy. Months later, the avoidant may reappear, subtly or dramatically. A "Hey, how have you been?" text, a comment, or a casual message. But it's never just small talk. It's about testing if the door is still open. When they sense you've moved on, it stirs their deepest insecurity, that they pushed away someone who truly saw them. If you respond from a healed space, you'll notice something different. Their charm doesn't hook you anymore. Their distance feels predictable. You see their patterns clearly, and you understand that love can't bloom where fear still rules. That's the moment you truly gain power. Not by ignoring them, but by understanding them without needing to fix them. Healing doesn't always mean reunion. Sometimes it means recognition, seeing the pattern for what it was and choosing peace over pain. And here's the twist. When you stop reaching out, not as a tactic but as self-respect, that's when they feel your absence most deeply. Your silence becomes louder than any message, because it's no longer about punishment. It's about freedom. Nothing shakes an avoidant more than realizing the person who once chased them is now emotionally indifferent. Sometimes, this silence becomes a mirror that wakes them up. They start confronting their wounds, questioning why love always ends in withdrawal. For others, they double down on avoidance, diving into distractions, but that emptiness always catches up. Because what happens next isn't about who breaks the silence first. It's about who grows through it. For you, it's the awakening of self-worth. For them, it's the confrontation of fear. Sometimes silence brings reconciliation. Other times it's a sacred ending that frees you both. And if you ever wonder whether they think of you, the answer is yes. But the real question is, do you think of you? Because the moment you stop obsessing over their absence and fill your life with presence, you win. Silence doesn't destroy connections. It reveals which ones were strong enough to survive without chasing.